Okay, so now we're going to get into materials and resources, and we're going to start with the prerequisite of storage and collection of recyclables. And again, that is required. And here, of course, obviously what LEED is trying to do is get us all to recycle and design buildings and spaces that encourage the process of recycling. We've all been in buildings where it's hard to do that, where the flow and system is not really well thought out. Here, what LEED is doing is trying to get you, is forcing you to think about recycling in your facility, which is great. And basically you have to submit your documentation on how you're going to do that in order to prove that you've met that prerequisite. And along that is what used to be a very wasteful process of construction waste. Now everybody is construction waste recycling, and we found that there's money to be made here. That it's not just about saving the environment, that all of those materials that are thrown out on site actually have financial value. And so what you want to do here is work with your haulers and work with your subcontractors to implement and develop a system that by which people can effectively recycle on site. Multiple languages as a strategy, by the way, is very useful. And these plans need to, of course, be followed up with performance that we'll talk about later. This is one of the most exciting parts of the new LEED V4 for me, I think, and it shows that the people at USGBC and GBCI listen. And so the intent here, of course, is to encourage adaptive reuse. Why build new when we have lots of empty structures here in the world? Why not just renovate and store and capture that embodied energy? So the strategy here is close that loop, to try to have closed loop systems where we're not having lots of energy flying out into the environment. And so, for example, here, 5 points for historic building reuse. I think this is just phenomenal because it hits not only in the quantitative, but it starts to understand the qualitative aspects of a historic structure having value, having intrinsic cultural value. And so LEED is beginning to acknowledge that. We can also renovate or abandon or blighted structures, and we can also look at saving parts of buildings. And so what LEED has done is in version 4 is really evolved the whole materials and resources category to be more responsive to what's actually happening out in the marketplace. And then the other big thing that's happening is LEED, along with Living Building Challenge and other systems, is driving accountability in product manufacturers and making them become more transparent, more open source, having them report. So the trick there, though, of course, is, well, it takes a lot of time on the sustainable designer's part to get with those companies to have them report out through their declarations. It is extremely time consuming. The only upside, of course, is that once you've got the information, you have it for future products, for future projects. So that's pretty important. So here we have what's called an EPD, which is an environmental product declaration, which is a sheet which essentially acknowledges what's in those products. Pretty powerful stuff. Again, I really encourage you to look at the reference guide to get better understanding of that. Now we have the building product disclosure and optimization, and here we're looking again at adaptive reuse. We're trying to understand, for example, how we're using our raw materials. How are we extracting those raw materials, and how is that sourced and or reported? And so how do we get a better understanding of how those materials are extracted? So if you're using rainforest lumber, for example, where is that coming from? How is it extracted? What's the standard there? And then we're looking at material ingredients. So this goes pretty far. I'm not even going to read all this, but I think you get the idea here is that what's happening in our industry right now, and it's really powerful, is that large multi-billion-dollar material manufacturing companies are being pressured now to disclose what's going on inside their products, processes, strategies, and all of that. And all I will say here is that it's time-consuming. Having worked in a firm, or working in a firm that is trying to work through this, over time, though, this will get a lot easier. So those people out in front are paying the big price. Now, we talked about construction waste recycling and how important that was. Now LEED is going to give you 2 points for that. And I believe if you get to 50% option 1, diversion 1, that's 75%. Oh no, I'm sorry, divert 50% and 3 material streams, or 75% and 4 material streams, or just an overall reduction. And there's lots of subcontractors out there right now that will not only take away all your waste, but give you all the measurements that you need. And actually, all the big guys do this now. So 10 years ago, this wasn't easy to do. In fact, people laughed when we used to teach this as a strategy for sustainability. And now it's actually second nature. I'm not sure about other countries, but here, it's pretty normal. I know companies and projects that are getting 99% construction waste recycling on a project. So it's pretty darned amazing. And that ends our look at the point-by points on materials and resources. Next, we're going to look at indoor environmental quality. And as always, I ask you to go and take a look at the LEED V4 for building, design, and construction for the actual specifics of what I'm talking about. Thanks a lot.